Hi, good evening. We're back for part two of our P.L.A.N program. We are finalizing our resume. So I'm going to give it about a minute for people to come on. So if you're just checking this out, if you're not checking it out live, you probably want to skip through for about a minute because I'm just going to kind of chill and let everybody kind of get on. We're on part two of the resume. We'll get started shortly. If anybody hasn't signed up and you just stumbled on here, what this is kind of, we're running a free version of our youth P.L.A.N program. P.L.A.N as an acronym stands for Producing Leaders Around Nations. And what we want to do is help youth cultivate their ideas to kind of help create the future of business leaders and entrepreneurs and great people around. So that's kind of what we got going on. If you're new, anybody could join. The only document for today is the resume document. If you signed up with me and sent me an email, I emailed you that. You don't necessarily need it though. It's not that complex. But if you want to make sure you stay up to date with everything going on, leave your email in the comments if you're not on my email list already. We'll get started in about 1 minute, actually about 35 seconds. We'll get started, 35 seconds. And if you're tuning in late, or if you don't come straight through, this is recorded. If you're new, part one was recorded. So make sure that you like the YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe. This week, we're sponsored by Motivation Behind the Mind podcast. So we do have a podcast where us and our founders break down why we do what we do. If you want to, they're sponsoring us tonight. If you want to check that out, the link is inside of the description to this video. Also, I teach stock market for free to people. I do it through Norwich Parks and Rec and do it through Zoom. So if anybody was interested in learning the stock market, I'd have a class tonight at 6:30. All right, so last week, a recap. We talked about kind of having value within yourself. We talked about a routine. We answered some questions about kind of how people view us, things kind of that nature. Now, if you didn't get the 5 questions from last week, make sure you check out the video before this. It was recorded last Wednesday to get those. We're going to move forward today. We have 3 questions that we need to answer. Then we're going to go through the resume document so you can be filling out your resume document. Then from there, we're going to talk about a little bit of financial literacy. We're going to talk about acquiring skills. After today, so when you join us next week, everybody's going to have their own business plan. So we're going to start thinking about it today. And by next week, you will have your own plan that you will be moving forward with. All right. So first things first, questions that we have for today. Make sure you write these down if you can. Keep these in a similar place to where you had your questions from week number 1. I just kind of have 3 questions today for you. And what I want you to do is first stop and think about, how do the people around you view you? So just think about, how do my friends view me? How does my family view me? Just take a little thought of that, because all of our questions today have to pertain to that. The first question is, if I or anybody else was to talk to your family members and ask them about you, how would they describe you to myself or to anyone else? Things to think about. How would they describe you within the house? How would they describe you as a student in school? How would they describe you as a friend? How would they describe you as, are you a person that is easy to talk to? Or are you a person that doesn't talk much? So just think about, how would your family describe you? If I was to answer that question myself, I would say my family would say, well, Miles is pretty determined because I'm up very early working on things to get done. One thing also with me is I'm working on becoming a better communicator, but I could communicate better. And one thing about my family, they would say, is that Miles doesn't usually ask for help. That's not necessarily the best thing, but it's something about me that I'm hard-headed. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get it better, just like all of us. So like I said, if my family, our first question for today was, how would your family describe you? Is the first question we got for today. So if you're just joining us, write that on down. My family would describe me as being dedicated, kind of hard-headed. But like, I'm one person that, my family knows this, I never really hear the word no. If somebody tells me I can't do something, then I just think that I need to try harder or find a way to kind of get that thing done when it comes to reaching my goals. Our next question. How do your friends look at you? So if you think your friends, just kind of take yourself out of the equation. If your friends are hanging out and you're not there, how would your friends communicate about you? How do your friends look at you? And the way that's seeing how your friends look at you, if your friends are down or something bad is going on, are you a person that they tend to call and talk to? Are you trustworthy? Are you honest with them? Are you vulnerable around friends? One thing about close friends is when you trust people and get to know them, you can become vulnerable. You can share things about yourself that you don't share with many people. As we all know, we have different people we talk to. Some people we can share a lot of stuff with. Some people we can share nothing with. So how do your friends kind of look at you in that situation? With my friends, I would say I would consider myself trustworthy. And I tend to I see good in everybody is my goal. So I tend to not judge people. It's not my job. So all I do is as people come talk to me, I try to help them to the best of my ability. So that's how some of my friends would kind of look at me. And our third question is, how would your friends describe yourself to your teachers, to an adult? So first question is, how would your family describe you? Second question is, how do your friends talk about you amongst themselves? The third question would be, how would your friends describe you to an adult or a positive role model in your life? Like for number three, if I was to go ask your friends, who are you? What would they kind of say? Now, with these questions, if you were here last week, there was 5 questions. Today we had 3. That gives us a total of 8. Now, with the resume document, you're going to use these 8 questions. And also, last week we did the 30-second commercial. Anybody who sent me an email, I tried my best to get everybody that sent one a response back. If you still want to send me a 30-second commercial, you can. I will not post that up for everybody to see, but I will respond with a video back saying thank you and kind of just letting you know that I really did appreciate it. So I was happy reading those. If you guys got those, more of those coming, keep them coming. I do appreciate it. All right, now with your resume, if you didn't get the document that I emailed, we're going to break our resume down into 4 different parts today. We're going to have a profile, which in other words, we did the 30-second commercial in our first session. Your 30-second commercial can be used for your profile. Your profile is just kind of something that explains who you are. Something like the first thing that you want to see in your resume is who is that person. So you can use the verbiage that you use from your 30-second commercial and put that inside of your profile. So the first part of our resume is the profile. And if at any time, if anybody has any questions, type them in the comments. I'm not going to be able to probably get to everything if you have a bunch of questions, but if there's not many, I can come on back to them. So first off, now we got the resume. The first part is your profile. The second part is your experience. So under your experience tab, add any volunteer or job experience you may have, any clubs or sports you may have played, any extracurricular activities, anything kind of that you have accomplished in your lifetime, that whether it's I worked in my classroom cleaning up things on a consistent basis for 2 years. That would be some experience in classroom management of the physical things. There could be multiple things for your experience. Your age will dictate this one. If you're under the age of 15, most of your experience most likely taking place in school or has taken place at your home. If you're a little bit older, I know when you get to high school, you're required to volunteer at least 40 hours to graduate. So you guys should have some experience. And just to put out there, if anybody's in New London County and you need volunteer experience, you can do it with Community Level Up if interested. So once again, our resume, the first part was the profile. In other words, your profile is your 30-second commercial. If you weren't here for the first part of our 30-second commercial, after this, just check out the video before. Your second part is your experience, things that you've gotten done or accomplished in your life. Good. Your third part, and if you signed up for the class, you have this template. Your third part is your education, the grade that you're currently in, the subjects that you really like, anything else that you do inside of school geared towards education or outside of school. For example, inside of school, you could say, hey, I'm a 9th grader. I love math and I love reading. And I also am educated on sailing and I do sailing programs during the summer to help educate myself on that. So that's kind of an example. So once again, the first part is your profile. Second part is your experience. Third part, your education. And the last but not least is your skills. So in your skills tabs, you want to let people know what you believe you're good at. Also, you want to let people know what others think you are good at. So if you kind of look back at our first 2 days of this program, we had 5 questions that all pertained to your resume. So if you look at your 5 questions from week 1, you look at your 3 questions from today, and then you look at this resume, those questions were help for you to design your experience, your education, and your skills on your resume. Your 30-second commercial was designed to help you break down your profile on your resume. You put all of those activities together, and that can give somebody an idea of kind of who you are. So make sure if you didn't finish this, or if you didn't get the document, the 4-part resume, with part 1 being profile, part 2 being experience, part 3 being education, and part 4 being your skills. If you did not get that in the email for me, leave your email in the comments or just shoot me an email asking for it so I can get it to you. But now you should have somewhat, or at least by the end of today, before next week at the latest, you should have an idea of kind of who you are. Verbally, you should be able to express that, and you should have a written copy, whether it's a PDF or a Word document on your computer, or whether you handwrite it, doesn't make a difference, but you should have something physical there where somebody else can read and kind of see exactly who you are. So now that your resume is done, we got about 15 minutes left in the class today. We may finish a little early. We'll see what we get to, but we're going to talk about a little bit of financial literacy, and we're going to talk about, if time allows us, acquiring skills. Now, next week, we're going to be talking about our business project, business plan. So this program, remember, it's an 8-week program. The first 2 sessions are all about you, understanding who you are, understanding that you need to be able to express yourself to other people. Once you get comfortable expressing yourself, once you get comfortable with who you are, then we can start to look at your skill sets that you have and kind of use your ideas to monetize and create things to help other people in this world. So next week, we're going to have a kind of a short writing prompt, and you're going to be thinking about whether you would want to provide a service, maybe incorporate a business, or if you would want to possibly develop a product that could be sold to people. You'll learn more about the difference of those next week. But with a business, financial literacy is very, very important when it comes to running business. Now, financial literacy is a very broad topic. Anything that has to do with making smart financial choices, I would consider under financial literacy. Things that we're going to talk about today that I think are important. A savings account and a checking account, you should know what they are. You should have an idea. Not everybody may have one of those at this time, but as you tend to get a little bit older, especially into a teen, communicate with your guardians, communicate with your parents about possibly getting yourself an account set up. We also are going to talk about credit and your budget and developing a budget, which are very important. Credit may not start to affect you till later, but a budget is something that no matter how old you are, we kind of should be thinking about. So now, first thing, a savings account. A savings account is something you can open up. I'm pretty sure as long as your parents sign, doesn't matter the age with it. It's where you put money in the bank that you're ideally not wanting to use or spend on anything, and you just kind of want to keep it in a safe place so it can grow. Now, when you put your money in a savings account, you gain 2% on your money in a 12-month span. What that means is if you put $1 in a savings account, after 12 months, you would have $1.02. So that's all the interest that is accrued on a savings account. As we get later into and talk about investments in business and stuff, one thing I want to challenge all the youth out there is don't just think that a savings account is a way that you can make money grow. Educate yourself on other things that can possibly make your money grow more than 2%. If you could find yourself at least 5 different streams of income that can grow your money more than 2%, you'll be off to a great start off of becoming a successful entrepreneur and a successful businessman or businesswoman. So now with your savings account, it's a savings account. You have an account where your money is safe. You cannot swipe a card to pay for things at a store with a savings account. Your card can only be used for ATM purchases. So you can't go to the store and buy, swipe, or use your chip with a savings. You can only use it to save money or take money out from the ATM. A checking account is something a little different where you do have the ability to write checks and pay for things. You do have the ability to swipe and scan and pay for things. Now, with a checking account, and we'll get deeper into them, you can get that at any bank around, but a credit account, a checking account does kind of go by the credit also that you have. If you owe money to anybody out there, which I hope nobody does at this point, because we're in a youth program, I'm hoping none of y'all in debt this early in life. If you are, please hit me up so we can try to get you out. But your credit, in other words, which we're going to talk about with your checking account, your credit is a view of how financially responsible are you. If you borrow money, do you pay it back? If you have an account, do you pay your bill on time? If you have a cell phone, do you pay your bill on time? All of your payments, anytime there's an automated transaction, a swipe or checking account swipe of anything that goes through, it's being documented out there. So make sure that you are financially responsible. Make sure that your credit is good, meaning that people can trust you. Because one thing about me and my credit, when I was younger, I got a credit card when I was like 16. I thought it was money that I can just spend and never had to pay back. I would swipe, buy sneakers, buy clothes, buy stuff that really made me no money. And then I ended up in the hole, and I'm still digging myself out to this day from mistakes that I made when I was younger. Now, one thing I want to talk about credit, and I'll go over little things each class, is if you're using credit for anything, it should be paying for something that should make you money. Do not use credit for something that will depreciate or something that doesn't make you money. Don't use credit to buy sneakers, because the minute you buy them $150 sneakers, the minute you walk out the store, if you went to try to give it back to them, it would no longer be worth $150. Use your credit for things that can make you money. If you don't have things yet that can make you money, then don't worry about using your credit. Learn about other things that can possibly make you money. And a budget. Now, we're going to go very basic and simple with a budget today. We'll talk about a monthly budget. Think about all the money you make in a month. Document that down. Think about all the necessities that you spend in a month or things that you need to spend on. Document that down. And to make a long story short, the amount of money that you make should never exceed the amount of things that you have to spend. So if there is anybody out there, what I just want all you guys to do for this week, we're going to get into a more detailed budget later when we get into your business plan. But I want you just to understand, or just think about, okay, how much money do I bring in a week? How much money do I bring in a month? How much money do I spend in a week? How much money do I spend in a month? And make sure that that money that you bring in is higher than that money that you spend. That's the first thing I want you to think right now for your budget. It's a basic concept. Don't spend more money than you make. Don't be out there splurging and all that stuff. Prepare yourself slowly, kind of grinding. Now, as you guys, next week, we'll get into our business plan. The reason why I'm touching on financial literacy and I'm going to touch on acquiring skills is because all of those are important for your business plan. So now I'm going to explain kind of how this all goes together. We got your resume. Your resume should be set. If you went through this program and I asked you, hey, what you into? Explain me a little bit about yourself. You should be able to send me your resume and you should be able to verbally give me a 30-second commercial or less based off of who you are. Once you know who you are, then we can start thinking about what you want to get into. Now, when you start to get into the business world or you start getting things done, there are skills that you need to have, soft skills and hard skills that you need to have in order to make yourself successful. Understanding financial literacy, making smart financial choices, making sure you don't mess up your credit, making sure your bank accounts are taken care of, making sure that within your budget, you don't spend more money than you make. Those are all things that successful businessmen and businesswomen have in common. So make sure that you focus on those. One other thing I want to talk about today before we close is acquiring skills. Now, as you guys are younger, if you under the age of 22, I'm gonna be real with y'all, and you can ask an adult. Don't ever just take the stuff that I say and think like, oh, he's just saying that, it has to be right. ask other adults, research it yourself. The stuff that I'm telling you, I'm not going to lie to you, but I want you to do your due diligence to make sure you fully understand it. Now, under the age of 21, really, 22, 21, any of that money that you make, you can ask people that's older, ask somebody above 30, do they have anything from that money when they were teens, early 20s? Most people no. There's some people that still do, but I know myself, I was just making money and just buying whatever, and I wasn't really like financially responsible. I don't know what I did with looking back on it. Now, one thing with that being said, if that is, in most cases, talk to people above you, but if that is going to be you in a situation, if the money that you make when you're younger doesn't really do much, but when you're older, don't focus on getting a job when you're younger where they just crush you. You make good money, but you don't learn anything. They just have you there as a body crushing you. Don't do that. Try to get a job from somebody where they can teach you something. Get a job where you can learn something. Like one thing I always say, and I would like everybody to answer this question themselves. If somebody came to your school, so say I came to your school and I said, right now, I will give you $10,000 cash, or I can teach you over the next couple of weeks how to make $1 million every year. What would your answer be to that question? Now, the unfortunate part is I have many kids that I work with that said, you know what? I'll take that 10,000 right now. I don't got the time to waste to worry about how to make $1 million a year. Let's just really think about that. You would take the 10,000 now when you're young, where you're probably going to blow it. You're not going to really, you don't have the financial literacy to know what to do with it. And you're not going to learn how to make $1 million. And then the minute that 10,000 runs out, well, you think that's a lie, it's really not. You're going to wish you had that knowledge to make them millions. So when you're young, think about that. Rather, get yourself an opportunity to where you can learn to possibly make way more in your future, rather than getting yourself in a situation where you're just busting your behind, but you're not learning anything. So when you're getting into your summer jobs, when you get into internships, whatever that you have to do when you're young, look more into places that you're interested in. Look more into people that are successful that can teach you things. Don't stress as much about the money dollar figure. Whether you're making $13, whether you're making $19, it's not going to make a difference in the end. When you're older, get that knowledge. That knowledge will make a difference, and that knowledge can help you grow. All right, I thank everybody. We're going to end a little bit early today. I appreciate you guys. So we're done with our resume series now. We got 6 classes left. Right now, you should have 5 questions that was answered from part 1. You should have had a 30-second commercial done from part 1. From part 2, you should have your resume document. Your resume document, it has 4 parts to it. The first part is your profile. The second part is your experience. The third part is your education. And the fourth part is your skills. So that is what we got accomplished today. Next week, we are getting into our business plan. We're going to be talking about what business do you want to create. You're going to learn about an LLC. You're going to learn about an incorporation. I'll kind of share my experiences with them. I'll give you some of the definitions, and then you're going to have a writing prompt. To get you prepared for that writing prompt this week, just think about some things of like, as I look at my skills, I look at what I'm good at, I look at my resume, what's something on here that maybe I can use to make money in the future? Now, with your ideas, and when you think about a business, you can think about a way that you can make yourself money and be profitable of a business, or you can also think about ways to make other people money. Because if you have ideas to make other people money, you will also find a lane with that to make yourself money at the same time. All right, so once again, we're sponsored this week by the Motivation Behind the Mind podcast. If anybody's new to kind of what we do, our founders, what we got going on, check out that podcast. The link is down low in the description. I got my stock class tonight at 6:30 p.m. The Zoom link is below. If any of y'all want to join us, feel free. It's our first part of it. We'll be going through it. And this summer, 322 State Street, we're located in New London. We're working on our summer programs now. We're going to have business enrichment camps. We're going to have math camps. I'm working on a lot of different things. So if you want to work on some education in a fun way while also learning, get your business kind of running, make sure you come join Community Level Up this summer. If anybody needs to get in contact with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, find me on Facebook, full name Miles Daniels, or if you go to YouTube, which you're on now, or any Facebook of those, you type in Community Level Up, you will also find myself. All right, that's it for our part 2 of our resume portion. We'll be starting with our business plan next week. If anybody's liking this plan program, it will be available on Amazon. May 1st will be the date that it's published. If anybody's interested in bringing this to an organization or a home near you. I appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful evening. I look forward to seeing everybody next Wednesday, 5:30. We'll be talking about our business plan.